was thinking of singing the Goswami Ashtakam.
Straight ahead. Well, there's kirtan going on right now.
I saw that, but I'm saying
On a regular basis. Here. This has a Jeff. Right here. This is regular kirtan, and they have all kinds of outlets for that.
The broadcast is finished. Which what? Which? Bhajan. I was thinking of singing the Sad Goswami Ashtakam. What do you reckon? Thank you. Hey, do we have a copy of Swami in a Strange Land?
Yeah, we have. 1 second.
You grab it for me, if yes, if you wouldn't mind. Hey, Yana, do you reckon you could put the bell back? I don't think there's any real reason why it shouldn't be up. Yeah. Boy, the deities look beautiful, don't they? The work that those devotees put in yesterday is just phenomenal. Turn it on and check it out, see what it looks like. Up the top, on the left of the fuse box, yep. Yeah, that's good. Yes, we've got a brightly lit column. this is not the one. No. Nice. Okay, right, yeah. We ready to go? I'll put that there. No, I'll put it down here. We're starting a bit late, aren't we? But we're not having breakfast, so it's okay. Krishna Kirtana Gana Natana Paro Premamritam Bonidhi Krishna Kirtana Gana Natana Paro Premamritam Bonidhi Dera Dera Kana Priyo Priyakaro Nirmatsaro Pujito Tera Jana Priya Priyakaro Nirmatsaro Pujito Sri Chaitanya Kripa Baro Bhuvi Bhuvo Bharavahantārako Bhabaro Bhivo Bhivo Bharavahantārako Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghuyugo Sri Jiva Gopalako Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghuyugo Sri Jiva Gopalako Nana Shastra Vicharanaika Nipuno Sadharma Samstapako Savicharanaika Nipuno Sadharma Samstapako Lokanam Hita Karano Tribhuvane Manyo Saranyakaro Karano Tribhuvane Manyo Saranyakaro Radha Krishna Padaravinda Bhajanam Nandena Matalako Krishna Bhakta Bhajanam Nandena Nataliko Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghuyugo Sri Jiva Gopalako Sanatana Raghuyugo Sri Jiva Sri Gauranga Gunanana Vido Shraddha Samridjam Vito Nano Navido Shraddha Samridjam Vito Apotapani Quintano Tanubritam Govindaganamritai Sankirtano Tanubritam Govindam Ganamritai Anandam Buddhivardhanaika Nipuno Kaivalya Nistarako Anandam Buddhivardhanaika Nipuno Kaivalya Nistarako Bande Rupa Sanatano Raghuyugo Sri Jiva Gopalako Jiva Gopalako Chakdvatur Namasesha Mandalapati Srinim Sadatu Chava Mandalapati Srinim Sadatu Chava Utvadina Ganesha Kokarunaya Kopina Kantasito Koptasrito Gope Bhavara Samritam Dilabhari Kalola Magno Moho Samritam Dilabhari Kalola Magno Moho Vande Rupa Sanatano Raghuyugo Shri Jiva Gopalako Sanatano Raghuyugo Shri Jiva Gopalako Gujat Kokila Hamsa Sarasaganar Kirne Mayura Kule Kokila Hamsa Sarasaganar Kirne Mayura Kule Nanarat Na Nibada Mula Vitapa Shri Yukta Vrindavane Ratna Nibada Mula Vitapa Shri Yukta Vrindavane Radha Krishna Mahanisham Prabhajato Jivartado Yo Muda Krishna Mahanisham Prabhajato Jivartado Yo Muda Vande Rupa Sanatano Raghuyugo Sri Jiva Gopalako Rupa Sanatano Raghuyugo Sri Jiva Gopalako Sankhya Purvaka Namagana Natibhi Kalavasani Krito Namagana Natibhi Kalavasani krito Nidrahara viharakadi vijito Chadyanta dino chayo Araviharakadi vijito Chadyanta dino chayo Radha Krishna Gunasmite Madhuriman Nandena Samahito Radha Krishna Gunasmite Madhuriman Nandena Samahito Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghuyugo Sri Jiva Gopalako Sri Jiva Gopalako Radha Kunda Tate Kalinda Tanaya Tirecha Vamshivate Premam Madhavashada Sesha Dasaya Krashto Pramato Sada Krashto Pramato Mosa Krayanto Takada Harer Gunabaram Avaviputo Muda Muda Vande Rupa Sanatano Raghuyugo Sri Jiva Gopalako Vande Rupa Sanatano Raghuyugo Sri Jiva Gopalako Hey Radhe Braja Devi Kechalalite Hey Nanda Shuno Kutaha Hey Radhe Braja Devi Kechalalite Hey Nanda Shuno Kutaha Shri Govardhana Kalpapada Patale Kalindi Vane Kutaha Vardhana Kalpapada Patale Kalindi Vane Kutaha Go Shanta Vitti Savato Brajapure Kedar Mahabhivalo Go Shanta Vitti Savato Brajapure Kedar Mahabhivalo Vande Rupa Sanatano Raghuyugo Sri Jiva Gopalako Pasanatana Raghuyuga Sri Jiva Gopala Go Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghuyugo Sri Jiva Gopala Go Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghuyugo Sri Jiva Gopala Go. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the six Goswamis, namely Sri Rupa Goswami, Sri Sanatana Goswami, Sri Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, Sri Raghunath Das Goswami, Sri Jiva Goswami and Sri Gopal Bhatta Goswami, who are always engaged in chanting the holy name of Krishna and dancing. They're just like the ocean of love of God, and they're popular with both the gentle and the ruffians because they are not envious of anyone. Whatever they do, they are all pleasing to everyone, and they are fully blessed by Lord Chaitanya. Thus they are engaged in missionary activities meant to deliver all the conditioned souls in the material universe. I offer my respectful obeisances under the six Goswamis, who are very expert in scrutinizingly studying all the revealed scriptures with the aim of establishing eternal religious principles for the benefit of all human beings. Thus they are honoured all over the three worlds, and they are worth taking shelter of because they are absorbed in the mood of the gopis and are engaged in the transcendental loving service of Shri Radha and Krishna. I offer my respectful obeisances under the six Goswamis, who are very much enriched in understanding Lord Chaitanya, and who are thus expert in narrating his transcendental qualities. They can purify all conditioned souls from the reactions of their sinful activities by pouring upon them transcendental songs about Govinda. Papo tapa nekrintano tanubritam Govinda ganamritai. As such, they are very expert in increasing the limits of the ocean of transcendental bliss, and they are the saviours of the living entities from the devouring mouth of impersonal liberation. I offer my respectful obeisances under the six Goswamis, who kicked off Jaktva, right? Jaktva, kicked off all association of aristocracy as insignificant. In order to deliver the poor conditioned souls, they accepted loincloths, treating themselves as mendicants, but they were always merged in the ecstatic ocean of the gopis' love for Krishna, and they bathed always and repeatedly in the waves of that ocean. I offer my respectful obeisances under the six Goswamis, who are always engaged in intensely worshipping Shri Radha and Krishna in the transcendental land of Vrindavan, which is filled with peacocks and flocks of cooing swans, cuckoos and cranes. In Vrindavan there are also beautiful trees full of fruits and flowers, and having roots inlaid with all valuable jewels. With great delight, the Goswamis bestow upon the living entities the boon of the goal of life. I offer my respectful obeisances under the six Goswamis, who were engaged in chanting the holy names of the Lord and bowing down in a scheduled measurement. In this way, they utilised their valuable lives, and in executing these devotional activities, they conquered over eating and sleeping, and were always meek and humble, enchanted by remembering the transcendental qualities of the Lord. I offer my respectful obeisances under the six Goswamis, who were sometimes on the bank of the Radhakund lake, sometimes on the shores of the Jamuna, and sometimes in Vamshivat. At these places they appeared just like madmen in the full ecstasy of love for Krishna, exhibiting different transcendental symptoms in their bodies, and they were merged in the ecstasy of Krishna consciousness. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the 6 Goswamis, who chanted very loudly everywhere in Vrindavan, shouting, "O Queen of Vrindavan, Radharani, O Lalita, O son of Nanda Maharaj, where are you all now? Are you just on the hill of Govardhan, or are you under the trees on the bank of the Jamuna? Where are you?" These were their moods in executing Krishna consciousness. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay. We're going to recite this verse. I wonder if this verse is in the Bhagavad, is in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, or in the Bhagavad. It's not in the Bhagavatam. I guess it's in the songbook, isn't it? With all the detail. Okay. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Vrishabhanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Tapta, molten. Kanchana, like gold. Gora, fair complexion. Angi, O you whose body. Radhe, O Radharani. Vrindavaneshwari, O Queen of Vrindavan. Vrishabhanu Sute, O daughter of King Vrishabhanu. Devi, O Goddess, Pranamami, I offer my respects. Hare Priye, O you who are very dear to Lord Krishna. I offer my respects to you, Srimati Radharani, I offer my respects to you, Srimati Radharani, whose bodily complexion is like molten gold, and who are the Queen of Vrindavan. You are the daughter of King Vrishabhanu, and you are very dear to Lord Krishna. Oma Gyanatimirandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmaye Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripa Tamaham Bande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam. So, today is the auspicious occasion of the appearance of Srimati Radharani, who is 15 days younger than Krishna. Right? We celebrated Janmashtami on a Monday 2 weeks ago, and now it's the Tuesday after, so 15 days. People have difficulty in appreciating or understanding the existence of God, right? If you asked, the ordinary man in the street, if he thought that God existed, most people just wouldn't have a clue, don't know. There's a great deal of confusion and misunderstanding about the Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschid yatati siddhaya yatatam apisiddhanam kaschin mam veti tatvataha. Right? Out of many thousands amongst men, hardly one, Krishna explains, hardly one has an understanding of who God is, or even if God exists. Right? And very often that understanding of God is in a very, very basic understanding that, God is, the energy behind everything, right? The energy or the power behind everything. And so as a consequence, is formless. But this is the beginning. This is the Brahman realization. This is the realization achieved by the Gyanis that God is energy, is power, right? Is the light. This is about as detailed as it gets, right? that somehow, behind all of the detail and all of the function, all of the order and structure and the systems, that it's come from nothing, effectively, because this spreading of the energetic, if you like, all throughout the whole creation, that energy, that potency, that power spread throughout the whole creation makes it formless, right? Although very difficult to understand how all of the detail and all of the structure and all of the form and all of the function that we see in intricacy, if you get out a microscope and look at, which was an amazing thing for I was reading about my great grandfather, who I never met. And he was an interesting character. But he had a microscope. I guess that was something big deal in those days. This is 200 years ago. No, not 200 years ago. At least 100 years ago. And my dad had that, and I remember looking at cells and whoa, what's going on in there? There's a lot of complexity. Right, so how does all of this complexity come out of nothing? Right? How does all of this complexity come out of nothing? But anyway, this is a very rudimentary understanding that people have of God. Right? Very rudimentary understanding. It's just he's some energy, and he's within everything, but nobody can see it. Well, it becomes an it in that, right? It becomes an it. I remember talking to my mum once, and we didn't have these kind of conversations very often, but my mother said to me, "God's not a person, is he?" I said, "Mum, this is ridiculous. If you're calling him a he, he's got to be a person, right?" And we have, my simple explanation was, God is the source of everything, right? God's the source of everything, and so you and I have personality. Right, you and I have personality, and so God must be a person. If he's the source, if he's our source, right? We come from him, and we've got personality. He must also have personality. It's logical, right? Fairly simple reasoning. And you can't give what you haven't got yourself. If you're the source of everything, you can't give what you haven't got. So he must be a person. But of course, and this is the challenge. This is the challenge, that the personality of Godhead, it is not immediately perceivable within the creation, right? Because there's a transcendental. When we think of body and we think of form and we think of personality, then we think of the limited personalities or the limited forms and the limited personalities that we are temporarily bound in this body. And then after some time, poof, it's gone. Right? Well, there's the 6 changes. Birth, growth, maintenance, production of byproducts, dwindling, and then just as we are born, poof, we're gone, dead, right? Or the body, right? So our conception of personality, the conception of form that we see in material existence, is limited by the temporality of the creation. And so difficult to conceive of, it's okay to conceive of an eternal energy that exists within everything and maintains everything, supports everything, and continues on, stretches out in the past and continues on in the future, right? But to conceive of a personality that does the same, our experience of form and personality is limited and temporary. But of course, God's form is not like that, right? Ishvaraha Parama Krishna Satchit Ananda Vigraha, right? He has a form that's eternal. And this is a challenge, because the Judaic Christian tradition is pretty much fixed on, or in good part, not always, but in good part, on the formless energy rather than on the personality, right? And so, although it is interesting in the Catholic tradition, if you go into the cathedrals and if you go into the churches, then you'll see the form of Christ on the cross. But in a lot of the churches that in the Anglican church especially, Jesus is not on the cross anymore, right? It's just the cross. Because Jesus is part of the whole. Well, he's central to the whole theology, right? But he's been removed. So, although you do find in the Catholic tradition there's a stronger focus on the personality, right? There is a. In good part, even Jesus has gone from a lot of the Christian denominations. Whereas, if you go into a Hindu temple, this is another problem. You go into a Hindu temple and then there's so many gods, right? If you go down to the, let's not name anybody, but just go to any temple and it's bewildering, right? It's bewildering. Even the priests sometimes don't know why they worship who they're worshipping, right? Which is, and even come to a Hare Krishna temple, right? What the natural inclination is when you come to a temple, you go to the altar, right, and see the Lord, right? It took me a little while to work. When you first come to the Hare Krishna temple, no experience with any Hindu culture, right? So you come in and people are scared of this. This is one of the great fears of coming to the Hare Krishna temple is, what do you do when you get here? What do you do when you go to the Hare Krishna temple? Right? What are you supposed to do? Actually, I think it's natural in any circumstance. When you first went to university, you walk in the front gate and you think, oh, what am I supposed to do? Even going to school, right? What am I supposed to do? Nobody wants to look foolish, right? So anyway, I discovered that actually when you come into the Hare Krishna temple, you don't go to the front, to the altar, right? You go to the back, where Srila Prabhupada is. So you start off. We start off at the back, not at the front. Right? Interesting. It's a cultural thing. And just like, the other day, Chintarepa was showing some young girls who came to, they were delivering some boga, or picking up some boga, I can't remember which. And they came into the temple room, and they saw Srila Prabhupada, and they said to Chintarepa, is he real? Is he real? is he alive? She said, no, he's real, but he's... So, to the back. And then, so first of all, we've got Prabhupada, right? A personality. It's challenging. Then we come here, we offer our obeisances to Gaur-Nitai, and, then we've got two personalities, and what are they doing? People can't work out what they're doing. They'll say, is that Krishna? Right? Is that Krishna? And say, yeah, well, it is Krishna, but it's not Krishna. Right? Yes, it's Krishna, but it's not Krishna. And I mentioned this the other day, we believe, and because there's so many personalities, then people think we believe in many gods. And that's, what to speak of one God who's just formless, right? Who can't be perceived because he's on the spiritual platform, right? He's on the spiritual platform, can't be perceived, can't be approached by the mundane senses, right? One sense, right? But then we come to a Hindu temple, and then immediately we're assaulted, if you like, by all these different personalities. And it's like, what's going on here? Right? This is why, in one sense, when you think about it, our culture, our spiritual culture, is hugely challenging for people who just don't even think that God exists. And if he exists, he doesn't have any form. He's within everything and all over everywhere, and impossible to approach. And then you come to the Hare Krishna temple, and then bang, there's this lifelike person who's sitting there, and everybody goes and bows down to when they come in, right? And then there's another altar where there's just a myriad of things. It takes sometimes devotees a couple of years to work out what's actually going on our Radha Vallabha's altar. Because there's so much going on. Right? When you think about it, it takes time. So yes, is this Krishna? No, well, actually, no, it's not Krishna, but it is Krishna. This is Krishna 500 years ago, right? As Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, right? And so this is a very difficult concept to understand. Also, what is it? We are and we say we're monotheistic, right? We say we believe in one God. We believe in one God. But then people look at the order and they say, what do you mean you believe in one God? What's going on here? Right? But one God who's polymorphic. Right? This is great. I heard, it was Konteya Prabhu mentioned this in one of his interviews or one of his explanations. We believe in one God, but he has many forms, right? Simultaneously, right? And he never forgets. Even Arjuna, who's a liberator, I'm teaching the 4th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita at the moment, Transcendental Knowledge. And it's interesting, Krishna says, Bahuni me vyatitani janmani chavacharjuna, right? Many, many births both you and I have had, Krishna says, right? I can remember all of them, but you cannot, right? And Arjuna's an eternal associate of Krishna, right? Arjuna's Nitya Siddha, what's the word for eternal? Nitya Lila associate, Siddha Deha, right? Perfect in his spiritual form, yet he forgets. Interesting, huh? Krishna's associates, or at least Arjuna's, would, arguably one of Krishna's most intimate associates, yet every time he comes with Krishna, he forgets. Very interesting, huh? So, this is a very unique, we have a very unique culture and a very challenging culture because we worship the one God, right, which is misunderstood as many gods. You worship too many, which is bewildering for people, right? And he appears in many forms at different times, or at the same time. He can expand and be present in a multiplicity of forms, and some fully himself, and some not himself. This is immensely challenging when you think about it, right? Some of them are not himself, but he gives them his powers, right? So we have Prithu Maharaj, we have different person. Even we recognise Srila Prabhupada as a avatara, one who descends, right? And a Shakti Avesh, one who has been given potency or power by Krishna, Krishna's power. Lord, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishna Das Kaviraj says, you can't preach unless you're empowered by Krishna, right? You can't be effective. And so we see, even we feel that ourselves, right? Some days you're out on Sankirtan, you're trying to distribute books, and you just feel like an idiot, right? You feel, you couldn't even tie your bootlace up. Right? It's just, everything's impossible. Of course, usually what happens on a day like that, when you're having a real tough time on Sankirtan, Krishna's, we really do appreciate Krishna in our lives in just very simple things. Right? And often, you'll be out struggling like anything to do. You'll be working hard, trying to do something, and you feel like you're not getting anywhere with that particular endeavour. And then somebody else, somebody completely unrelated will come along, and my example, one of my examples is that we used to have a quota on Sankirtan. I think especially when it was the month or two after the Christmas marathon, but before we would go to India. And you'd have to collect your usual collection plus a couple of $100 more per week, because that would go towards your fare to go to India. And of course, Christmas marathon, it's easy, people are just giving you money left, right and centre. Well, it's easy. But then after, Christmas, New Year's Day, then it was a struggle for a couple of months. I remember working really hard, being super enthusiastic, and fully expecting Krishna's reciprocation and getting my quota, but of course that week I think I did about $600 or $700. I was extremely disappointed. And so on the Saturday night, my penance and austerity was to go out on, we would always go, Friday night and Saturday night was our Harinam night, right? And we'd all go downtown, householders, the single men and women, and all that was left would be, the pujaris dressing the deity. And in those days, we only dressed Radha Ballabha at night. We didn't have the quantity of pujaris that we've got now. So, every night, every morning and every night we dress the deities. Although Radha Krishna's always been dressed 3 times a day. Right? So there would be a skeleton crew back at the temple. somebody cooking the offering, somebody doing the puja, and everybody would go on Harinam. It was fun. It was the highlight of the week to go on Harinam. You know, you'd never know what kind of a fight you'd get into. Because this is late 70s, early 80s. And, but I decided, okay, my penance and austerity would be just to hand out Back to Godhead magazines, because we would collect a lot of them. Our collections would go towards purchasing books. And at that time, our strategy was not selling books because we'd kind of fried everybody out. So we would just so I was giving away Back to Godhead magazines and feeling a bit sorry for myself. And then this gentleman walked up to me, American gentleman walked up to me and asked me how it was going. I said, yeah, it's okay. And I gave him a Back to Godhead magazine, and you know, he more or less said, good on you. And then he gave me a donation. And I could see it was American money, and you don't, when somebody gives you, you don't open it up and look at it in front of them. It's not well, that's it. So I put it in my pocket. Then he went away, and then after we were going home, I pulled out the note. He'd given me $100 note, right? And I was like, wow, you know, this is far out. And then it made me realise that, you know, my endeavour, you know, I was working really hard thinking, you know, I'm the doer. But, you know, at the end of the week, time to go home, and this fella just walked up to me. And I figured he must have known the devotees because, you know, he was friendly. And to give somebody a $100 donation is fairly unique, right? Even today, if somebody gave you $100 for a Back to Godhead magazine, you'd be pretty chuffed, right? So Krishna is in our lives and he reciprocates. We forget, you know, we experience these things on a daily basis and take it as Krishna's mercy. We accept Krishna's mercy. We feel Krishna participating in our lives, reciprocating, right? Which others don't. Right? We feel reciprocation with the deities. Right? So, you know, we've got Gaurnitai, we've got Radha Ballabha, right? And more complexity, right? More complexity. Especially if you looked at all of the personality, if you explained all of the personalities that we've got on the altar, plus all of the Shalagram Shilas, right? So, you know, and not only that, you know, what are these people? You know, they talk about they're into personalities, and we shouldn't, you know, we don't worship graven idols. Right? This is the big thing amongst the Judaic, Christian, Islamic tradition, that God is not bound by any form. And if you try to cast him in any, mould him or shape him into any form, then you're limiting God, right? And so this is, you know, the worship of deities is aparad, right? This is why the Mohammedans would smash the deities in the temples, kill the brahmanas, right? Hare Krishna. Because they're infidels, I guess, right? So very challenging. Of course, Prabhupada says God is unlimited, and so therefore he can do what he likes. If he wants to have a form, sure, what's the problem? But if you say he can't have a form, then you're limiting him. There's the real limitation. So God is unlimited, yes. And of course we know he appears in these forms to provide opportunities for his devotees to render service and to develop their relationship with him, right? So he's not limited by the forms, right? And so we say a prescribed form or an authorised form. And Prabhupada gives the example of a post office box, right? If you want to show some appreciation for a friend or a lover or a family member, right? What do you do? Well, what did you used to? These days you send them a TikTok or something. But in the olden days, we used to send people cards and letters, right? And so you went and put your card or letter in the post box. And it had to be the right, it's not that you walk down the street and you see a box or a bin and you just put your letter in it and expect it's going to get to where you want it to go. No, you have to put it in the authorised. This is Prabhupada's example. You've got to put it in the authorised post box. So similarly also, you need to worship the authorised form of the Lord. And we have Radhaballabha, right? The most, well, at least I'm probably biased, but in my opinion, the most beautiful form of Radharani, at least, right? What to speak of Radhaballabha, right? Although even Radhaballabha is challenging because, he's got these conch eyes, right? And I remember as a young devotee always having difficulty trying to approach Radhaballabha because Krishna's got this very penetrating glance, right? At least probably because I'm a rascal. But again, very challenging. And not only that, we've got all of the Shalagram Shilas. So, we've got these authorised forms. But then the Hare Krishnas are also worshipping rocks as well. Little pebbles. And this really stretches the concept of polymorphic, right? When you think about it. And then we've got Lord Ramchandra, we've got Lord Varaha, we've got Lord Trivikram, we've got Gopal, we've got Nrsingadev, we've got Govardhan. Not only do we worship rocks, but we worship hills as well, right? The whole mountains. So extremely challenging, right? Extremely challenging for people who only see God as this, can only get their heads around a very limited understanding of an energy that exists within everything and stretches out into the future and goes all the way into the past and is, can't be approached, unapproachable. And the scriptures describe how God is unapproachable, right? By mere material efforts. Very interesting. And so, and then, then we see God, Krishna, and he's with his feminine counterpart, right? So it's like, whoa, what is going on here? Too much. And of course then, to make things even more challenging, this is just from the ordinary person, the ordinary people that this is what, we were discussing the other day, how Bharatvarsha is a auspicious place to take birth, right? Because most people who are born in Bharatvarsha, they already understand all of this, just by being steeped in the culture. What is it? Jnana, Kriya, Dravya, all the knowledge is there, the activity is there, the ingredients are all there, so that the people in that culture automatically come out understanding many of these principles. Right? The personality of God, it is not a challenge, because he's already in their lives. But in the ordinary, very ordinary environment that we find ourselves actively engaged in the culture and the people, that's not a given. Right? It's very interesting you arrive in those days, Dum Dum Airport, right, in Calcutta, and then after quite a bit of struggle and effort, you get your baggage, and you get a taxi. Not easily done. Certainly in the 70s and 80s, it was always a struggle. well, we didn't speak Bengali, they didn't speak English. And, the few words that we knew were Mayapur. We knew what Mayapur was, and they used to say, Mayapur. That was it. You go to Mayapur, basically. Mayapur. We say, yep. Okay, so you get in a taxi and then, haggle over how much, you're going to have to pay 3 or 4 times the price that the devotees have told you should pay. Right? And then, you drive out of the airport and you go past down that road. Well, I can't remember what to Barashat, the road that goes to Mayapur. And a taxi driver stops. Huh? The taxi driver stops. And so, you think, what is he doing? What's he doing? And he gets out of the taxi and he goes, there's a little temple there. Like somewhere on that road, there was a temple. The taxi drivers would always stop. They go out and they throw a paisa in and pray to the deity and then get back in and off they'd go. Right? So, it's just part of the culture. And worshipping persons, worshipping people, it's just acceptable, right? Accepted. So, coming to the point of understanding God as a person, and then God as a person expanding as himself, right? And a transcendental, Satyat Ananda Vigraha, a transcendental, a form that's eternal and full of knowledge and full of bliss is, it's a Himalayan challenge of awareness, of consciousness, of, expanding one's understanding of things. And then, that Krishna appears in his Adi Purush, right, his original form, and he's accompanied by his consort, Srimati Radharani. And this brings along with it many, many challenges. Again, right? Because just understanding that God is a person, and as Prabhupada says, he has a residence, he has an address, he has a name. We know how to call him, we know where he lives, we know how to approach him, right? But then he's there with others, right? And his most significant other is Srimati Radharani, right? And then one of the major challenges in understanding and appreciating the form of Srimati Radharani is that Krishna and Radha appear in this Navayovanam form, and so their appearance and the presentation is like that of a young boy and a young girl, right? Which is fair enough, naturally. What is it? Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi. She's appearing in this form, beautiful form, whose anga, limbs, are like molten gold, right? Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi. And that even though Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and is in charge of everybody, still he's under the control of his feminine counterpart, right? Which is not unusual. Not unusual, right? The women usually are in charge of the men, right? There's that joke, what is it? I have the last say around here. Yes, dear. Right? But then how is it if Ishvaraha Parama Krishna, if Krishna is the supreme controller, then how come Radharani is in charge of him? And of course this is a challenge for the men, right? They don't want to accept or admit that the women are in charge. And you can see it. It's very interesting. When Lord Chaitanya was instructed by Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, right? And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya revealed many of the esoteric teachings to Lord Chaitanya. And isn't it interesting, because Lord Chaitanya is Krishna himself, right? And of course Krishna himself in the mood of Srimati Radharani, by the way, right? Acting as a devotee. And so he's the reservoir of all knowledge and of all learning, right? Yet, what does he do? Lord Chaitanya demonstrates how, because he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, becoming in the form of a devotee, in that mood of Srimati Radharani, he approaches even his devotees, right? So Krishna approaches his devotees in the form of Lord Chaitanya to learn about transcendental science, to teach us, here's how you become self-realized. You have to become a servant of the devotees. Right? And of course this is what everybody prays in Vrindavan too. They pray to Radharani, right? To become a servant of Krishna, they pray to Srimati Radharani, because Srimati Radharani is the topmost servant of Krishna. Right? And of course this is how Radharani is actually able to control Krishna, because she's his most dedicated and most devout and most beloved servant. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya told Lord Chaitanya, and Lord Chaitanya was in his inquiry of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, tell me more, tell me more, tell me more, right? Because that's the mood of a devotee, right? Tell me more. What about this? What about that? The devotee is always inquiring, right? In fact, our mood is in a mood of Vipralamba Seva. And of course we get that from Srimati Radharani. Most of her service to Krishna was done in separation. Right? The small amount of time when Krishna was in Vrindavan, associating with all of the residents of Vrindavan, but most of the time he had left. Right? And the residents of Vrindavan were feeling pangs of separation. And we see that in the this is why I sang the Goswami Astikam, because Prabhupada says, we never think, our mood is not to think I have Krishna or I have Srimati Radharani, and that's following in the footsteps of the Goswamis. What is it? Hey Radhe Brajadevi Ke Chalalite, Hey Nanda Shuno Kutaha. Where are you? And Prabhupada says in their mature practice of devotional service, they're always looking for Krishna, never feeling I've got Krishna, but always looking and feeling that separation, which is the mood of Srimati Radharani, the mood of Lord Chaitanya, right? And the mood of Srimati Radharani, because Lord Chaitanya's manifest, and so he's always inquiring. This is the nature of a devotee, always inquiring, where is Krishna, where is Krishna? Always wanting to know more, right? Not thinking, I know everything. Come and take darshan of me, and hear from me. It's more, devotees always thinking, I can't understand Krishna enough. There's always more to know. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said to Ramananda Roy, to Lord Chaitanya, go and speak to Ramananda Roy. He can take you further, right? Which is interesting. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was a Brahmana, had many thousands of disciples, was very learned in the Vedas, right? But Sarvabhauma, and Lord Chaitanya himself was a Brahmana too, right? And a sannyasi. Interesting, right? But Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said, go and get instructed by Ramananda Roy, who's a householder and a kayasta, right, which is effectively a sudra. Right? And that's where we get that kiba vipra kiba nyase sudra kene noye Krishna tatvata say guru hoy. Right? We approach those who are learned in Krishna. So Lord Chaitanya then, setting the example, went to Ramananda Roy, inquiring more and more about spiritual topics. And of course the topmost, the highest level is the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. Right? This is the topmost understanding of our spiritual, theology. Right? And it's very interesting because, the pastime, and this was a challenge for Srila Prabhupada, as Yogeshwara points out in Swami in a Strange Land. The pastimes of Radha and Krishna can be misunderstood if they're just seen from the external platform as, the cavorting of young boys and girls in the forest. And, what do young boys and girls do in the forest? Yeah, you're all brahmacharis, so we don't discuss these things. Right? But Lord Chaitanya, would discuss these intimate pastimes with his close associates, right? But not, and it's very interesting, if you look at Srila Prabhupada's presentations on days like today, Radhastami, Prabhupada didn't go into, he did not go into the Vrindavan Leela, Rasa Leela pastimes. Never. In fact, you don't even find Prabhupada, you find Prabhupada basically warning people, don't do this. Right? More than anything, if you find Prabhupada talking about it. And of course, this was following in the footsteps of Lord Chaitanya, as did the Goswamis. Of course, the Goswamis did write this very intimate Leela. It's not that they didn't touch it, but it's meant for very advanced devotees. Right? But Srila Prabhupada, generally speaking, would describe Srimati Radharani as being Krishna's most beloved consort and most dear to him, the epitome of bhakti, the epitome of devotional service, right? But not touching on the very intimate pastime. You won't find it in Prabhupada's books, right? But in the pastimes where Lord Chaitanya is approaching Ramananda Roy, you get an insight where he describes how Krishna and Radharani in the rasa dance are engaging. Right, they're engaging, and Krishna is engaging with all of the gopis. Right? But then Radharani gets upset. Right? Radharani gets upset because Krishna's not paying enough attention to her. And that's where Ramananda Roy describes how the ways of love are as crooked as a snake, right? What happens? The girl gets upset with the boy, and so she gets in a huff. Makes out like, she's upset with the boy. Actually, she's not upset with the boy. She just wants his attention, right? Or she's upset because she's not getting the attention, and so Radharani left. But then Krishna notices that Radharani's gone, and so the whole, even though he's with all of the other gopis, he's unsatisfied. Huh? Krishna's unsatisfied because Radharani's not happy. She's left. And so then Krishna is thinking, where's Radharani? And so you can see how Radharani attracts. It's very, it's very, very subtle. But it looks like the mundane affairs, but it's not. It's purely spiritual, right? Purely spiritual activity. And again, more challenge for the materialist. Right? So challenging for the materialist, who can only see God as a formless energy within the creation. He's God being tricked by his girlfriend. This is hugely challenging for people, right? And so Krishna wants to bring Radharani back to the rasa dance, right? And of course, when we see, there's more descriptions of these pastimes where Krishna has left the rasa dance, and then the other gopis are upset. Where's Krishna, right? And then there's a description how. Hey, what are you doing, you guys? I'm getting to the best part of the story and you just come in and have a chat. Thank you. Anyway, it's okay. My rendition of the story could be better, that's for sure. So, Radharani is Krishna leaves the rasa dance. The other gopis are now upset. And they're looking for Radha and Krishna, and then they see there's two footprints walking side by side, but then only one, right? Where Krishna's picked up Radharani, but then Radharani gets puffed up, right? And then Krishna disappears. Oh, dear me. So, beautiful pastimes that illustrate how Srimati Radharani is the most dear to Krishna. And the most devoted servant. And of course we see that epitomised in Radharani's manifestation as Lord Chaitanya. Right? For us, for a practical application of the service mood of Srimati Radharani. If we want to be absorbed in that mood, then we follow in the footsteps of Lord Chaitanya. Right? He's the manifestation of Srimati Radharani's compassion and her love and affection for Krishna, but also for others. And it's really manifest in the care and the concern that's epitomised in the mood of Lord Chaitanya, and then following on from Lord Chaitanya, the mood of the 6 Goswamis. And we just sang about the 6 Goswamis. They were studying the Shastra. This is the manifestation of Srimati Radharani's compassion and mood of service in the Sankirtan movement. That the practical application of Srimati Radharani's devotion is manifest in the Sankirtan movement of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So there's study of the Shastra, right? There's Kirtan, Sankirtan. And coming from the study of the Shastra, the writing of books, right? The exposition or the if we're going to be effective in bringing people who can't work out whether God exists or not, and if they have an understanding of God, it's a formless, vibrating light or something, energy, right? We've got to bring them from most people don't even have an understanding at all, right? If we're going to bring them, then, from this very deeply deeply rooted ignorance, effectively, passion and ignorance, where it's all about the body, to the point of understanding, that you're not the body, that you're spiritual by nature. And as spiritual by nature, there are things that you do, right? Not that, because this is the other challenge, as a yogi, as an advanced transcendentalist, and if God's just an energy, then what do? Then you just kind of zap out and tune in with the energy, and then you don't do anything, right? This is the notion of, this is what I thought when I was attracted. I was doing yoga and I was attracted to reading philosophical books. And I thought, the end result is that you just go to the Himalayas and sit in a cave and meditate, right? Which is patently ridiculous. You can't do that. I couldn't do it then, can't do it now. Right? So you have to be active. So, what are the activities of the spiritual person, right? And that's what the Chaitanya Charitamrita is all about, actually, when you think about it. It's the example of what a spiritual person does, right? So the Goswamis, following the footsteps of Lord Chaitanya, exhibited book distribution or study of books, writing of books, distributing books. Of course, that came later. And of course, we see that with Bhaktivedanta Thakur, printing press and churning out books and knowledge to be distributed to people. And in Srila Prabhupada, we see Srimati Radharani's compassion and care modelled in the behaviour of our Founder-Acharya, in that care and concern for others, that dedication and devotion to serving Krishna manifest in the compassion for others. Right? And of course that's the inspiration, they're the inspirations that we can take on a day like Radhastami, where we want to imbibe the mood of Srimati Radharani and her dedication and love for Krishna. She's the Vrindavaneshwari, she's the queen of Vrindavan, because she's able to capture Krishna's attention. And she captures Krishna's attention by her dedication and by her service to Krishna. And of course, if we want to capture Krishna's attention following in the footsteps of Srimati Radharani, then we need to follow in the footsteps of her devotees. We need to follow in the footsteps of Prabhupada, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Bhaktivedanta Thakur, the six Goswamis, Lord Chaitanya. This is the practical manifestation of Srimati Radharani's love and affection and devotional service to Krishna. So, we certainly have our original Siddha Deha, our Nitya Siddha, eternal position in relationship to Krishna. We certainly have that inherent within us, right? But in order to uncover that, we can't artificially just meditate. This is why Prabhupada argued against the Siddha Pranali process, right? That, your Nitya Siddha Deha is revealed to you at the time of initiation. Right? Prabhupada he preached against that, right? No, certainly you have, Nitya Siddha, what is it? Nitya Siddha, Krishna Prem, Sadhya Kabunoi, right? Everybody has their eternal relationship with Krishna, but Shravanadi Sudha Chitte, right? By hearing and chanting, and then purifying your Sudha Chitte, right? Making your consciousness pure, then gradually our spiritual identity will be revealed. Naturally it'll come out, right? So, and of course, in order to do that, we actually, Prabhupada says, if you want to please Krishna and get Krishna's attention, then you know, it's not that you can go to Vrindavan and find Krishna behind a rock or something. No. He says, you need to pray to Srimati Radharani. Get her shelter. And of course we do that. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We pray to Srimati Radharani first. Hare, right? Krishna. So, in order to get Krishna's mercy, we need to pray to Srimati Radharani, and that mercy is revealed to us in the form of Srimati Radharani's representatives, or representative, if you like, but representatives. That representative is the spiritual master, right? This is why the spiritual master is described as simultaneously being the representative of Lord Nityananda, right? Balaram, the Adi Guru, but also the spiritual master is a representative of Srimati Radharani. Srimati Radharani is the expert in service to Krishna and sacrifice to Krishna. That's why we pray to Srimati Radharani. And so in order to get Krishna's mercy, Prabhupada says, pray to Srimati Radharani. Please, Srimati Radharani, put in a good word for me. I am not a servant's bootlace. So please, if you would be so kind as to recommend your servant to him, right? But then are we qualified to approach Srimati Radharani directly? Probably, yeah, maybe, because she's very compassionate. But how do we approach? We approach through through her representative. Like this is our culture, if you like. Because we're fortunate. Prabhupada has told us, yes, you can approach Srimati Radharani, and we're very fortunate to have, our most beautiful Srimati Radharani, and most beautifully, the devotees put in hours and hours of service to decorate Radha Vallabha on this day. In fact, we were supposed to greet the deities at 7 o'clock. What time was it? 9 o'clock. At least 8 o'clock. Yeah. So, but beautiful. And that's that's service. That really is what conquers Krishna in one sense, right? Krishna's not conquered by our big learning and big brains and big achievements and whatever. In fact, we're only able to do that because of Krishna's mercy anyway. But having the right mood of service, and really that's essential in the Hare Krishna movement, having the right mood of service, and that's being compassionate to others, being kind and caring, and giving others an opportunity to come and serve Krishna, connecting people with Krishna, which is a big challenge. As I mentioned, we culturally are quite challenging. I remember when I first read the Nectar of Devotion, and I thought, I should be able to work this out. And then Prabhupada was describing, or Rupa Goswami was describing Krishna with his cowherd boyfriends in Vrindavan, playing with his cowherd friends in Vrindavan. And at that point in my career, I was just thinking of God as the impersonal energy within everything. And then there's this picture of these boys playing, and I think, whoa, what? I can't get, there's too much. I just closed the book up and put it back in the shelf and thought, whoa, that's far out. Right? It's just far out. Although Prabhupada does say, all they have to do is touch the book. Swami was saying yesterday. Right? We were being interviewed. And Swami was telling the story how, or quoting some of Prabhupada's quotations, but telling the story of how he became very convinced of Krishna consciousness because he was reading Prabhupada's books, right? And so we have very intimate, deep, detailed instructions about Krishna's identity, his relationships with his friends, what he does, and what he wants us to do as well, for that matter, you know. And this can be very, very challenging. And so our compassion, you know, following in the footsteps of Srimati Radharani, our compassion is thinking of ways and creating ways to bring people closer to Krishna consciousness so that they can understand it. So it has to be presented. Haribol, Gopinath, good to see you. You're dressed very handsomely, huh? Isn't he? Is Gopinath handsome or not? Yeah. He's dressing up for the pleasure of Srimati Radharani and the devotees. Yeah. So that's that mood of Srimati Radharani, and of course the mood of the devotees is to render service to the divine couple through the devotees, not necessarily directly associating ourselves, right? This is what, you know, there's that song, Shrita Pada Kamala, where the devotee is singing about their relationship with Krishna, right? And Prabhupada says, you know, this is not actually, our mood is we render service to the divine couple through the Shaktis. There's not direct association. Right? This is the mood. That mood of service is deeply embedded in the Vaishnava culture and even many times removed. What is it? Gopi Bhatu Padakamaya Dasa Dasa Dasana Das. So it's, you know, we are servants of Srimati Radharani. Prabhupada encourages us to approach Radharani to get Krishna's mercy, but we approach Srimati Radharani through the devotees. This is our process. Does anybody have any comments or questions, thoughts, realizations? On this very auspicious day. What are you thinking about, Gopinath? What did he say? What did you say? Yes, it's Radharani's birthday. And she's got a very beautiful set of clothes on. All flowers. A lot of work. Thank you, Jai Radhik. Very well. It's not my mercy. Hare Krishna, you're very kind. But I think you're misrepresenting things a little bit. It's Prabhupada's mercy and the mercy of the devotees. How many It's the mercy of devotees who helped you, I think.
I need your mercy for auction, please.
You need? What's that?
Dress auction tonight, I need your permission, please.
I'm not convinced that we should do that.
Okay. Oh, no auction.
You may have noticed, without breaching any guidelines, restrictions. Yeah. Online's okay. Yeah, that's fine.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yes. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
But how we get it to people, that's my concern.
I think what is schedule and she arranged it.
Okay, all right. Yep,
Thank you.
Haribol. Yeah. Oh. Okay. Srimati Radharani ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Radha Ballabha ki jai, Gaura Bhakta Brinda ki jai.